Who's the most important person in guitar history? Go on, take a guess, guys. I'll give you a second. Now, some people would say Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, maybe, if you're special, Leo Fender. But there's one man almost nobody talks about, even though modern guitars literally wouldn't even exist without him. A Spanish Lutheran named Antonio de Torres Jurado, who completely reinvented the guitar in the 1800s and changed music as we know it forever. Before Torres, guitars looked familiar, if you want to call that similar looking, but they didn't sound familiar. Most guitars in the early 1800s were relatively small-bodied instruments with lower volume and less projection. It's kind of like how the first sibling comes out of the oven looking just fine, it's okay. The second one comes out far better, vast improvement, better in every way. Sorry, sis. Anyway, there was a problem because music was changing. Concert halls were getting bigger. Players wanted more expression. Kind of like how your piano player is sitting there for 20 minutes playing a full recital and he's covered in sweat all over his body, and people wonder, oh, why is he covered so much? Maybe it's because he's in a 20-piece suit all the time. Anyway, the guitar needed to compete with louder instruments. The instrument was at a crossroads, and that's where Taurus, our knight in shining armor, comes in. Antonio de Torres Jurado was born in 1817, southern Spain. Antonio's father was a supporting figure in his life. He worked as a local tax collector and at times a potter in La Canada area of Almeria, Spain, also helping with Antonio's military conscription during the 1830s, because, you know, at the time no one really wants to be heading off to civil war at the time or nothing, or any kind of conflict. Anyway, by him trying to obtain that specific medical exemption that he needed. During this time, he also trained as a carpenter, which helped him develop his skills later on while crafting the guitar, which actually became really important later, because guitar building is basically precision woodworking mixed with some acoustics in there. But Taurus lived during a difficult time, as we were talking about. Spanish history isn't looking great so far. There was a political war going on, economical struggles, life isn't necessarily easy, and for a while, guitar making wasn't even on his mind, his main focus. But eventually, Taurus became deeply interested in building guitars. At the time, Spanish guitars were already respected, but they still lacked variety widely in quality and design. There wasn't really a standard yet for them. So Taurus started experimenting, and those experiments would completely reshape the instrument that we have now today. So you might be asking, what made guitars back then quite limited? Well, they were often much more smaller, a little bit more quieter, and much more lightly built at the time. And they were highly inconsistent. I mean, some of them just sounded great and fantastic, and some of them were absolutely appalling and terrible sounding. And many simply just didn't project enough sound coming out of the instrument. Imagine this, right? You're trying to perform in front of a large crowd of people with whatever your chosen instrument is, but no one can barely hear what you're doing, and the instrument's barely filling the room. Well, that's what's happening with the guitarists at the moment. So Taurus asked a simple question. What if the body of the guitar mattered more than the strings themselves? At the time, many people would have believed that the strings was what created the sound, but Taurus believed in a completely opposite way. He said the top wood of the soundboard was the real secret. And he was right. There's an interesting story that I'd like to share with you guys. You've got Taurus, who strongly believes in his design. And at one point, he supposedly builds a guitar that's paper mache on all the sides and the back as well. Basically, it's just a paper guitar, which sounds very unnatural. but the guitar still sounded surprisingly good. Now a lot of people asked, why was that? Because Taurus wanted to prove that most of the soundboard mattered more than almost anything else on the guitar. Now, here's the thing, whether or not every detail of this story is perfectly accurate is highly debatable, but the story itself becomes legendary among all guitar builders. Now why is that? It's because it represents Taurus's entire philosophy, that the top of the guitar was the heart of the instrument, and that wasn't too much mattering what was happening with the strings, but how it sounded for each different types of wood that you had. That's his entire idea. A huge reason that Taurus became well known as it is today is because there were great players that simply loved his guitars. One of the most important was a Spanish guitarist, Julian Arcas. Arcas reportedly encouraged Taurus to continue building the instruments professionally. And when talented musicians started performing on Taurus's guitars, people noticed. The instrument had more power, more beauty, and more emotion. Taurus guitars began getting a reputation as something well known and very special. Here's the crazy part, a lot of guitar designs from history disappeared, but Taurus's design didn't. It became the foundation. Even more classical guitarists today still follow his standard, his body proportions, his scale concept, his ideas from it, and especially his acoustic philosophy that almost never happens in instruments today. Usually designs evolve consistently, but Taurus has got so much right that the world basically said, you know what, yeah, this is the guitar that we need. Yep, this idea, this standard is perfect. That's why people would call him nowadays the father of the modern classical guitar. And honestly, the title is deserved for him. But despite all of this and all the whole story I've told you, there's one thing that I find very interesting about Taurus's life, is that the man didn't become massively wealthy. In fact, at one point he just stepped away from everything entirely with guitar making, and his brand new motivation and something he wanted to do in his life is working on that good old-fashioned china shop. I mean, imagine that. The man who shaped the modern guitar as we know it today, he's now busting out selling his plates and his little cups to everyone. I mean, it's one of those strange moments in history where you've got someone who's changed the world as we know it in terms of guitar making, and for anyone in the future who wants to create new designs, he didn't ever really fully recognize maybe how important they'd become later on, and simply how much people would come to appreciate him. In fact, I don't even realize that he probably even know that people are still talking about him today. Now here's the thing, today nearly every classical guitar owes something to Antonio. See, here's the thing, without him, classical guitars might sound completely different. Modern acoustic designs may have evolved in a completely separate way from a completely different designer in a completely different country, giving us a completely more unique sound. And the guitar itself may have never become such an expressive instrument as we have today. See, his ideas influence a generation of luthiers, including companies and builders that still exist today. Let's just add Martin guitars in there and Gibson as well, considering they're still creating today. And they help push the acoustic design even further, and afterwards as well, Taurus is still laying the foundation. And what's the amazing thing is that his work almost matters even now, 200 years later. I mean, that's rare. I mean, think of it, right? The modern light bulb is such an universal idea and worked and helped us so well with helping us to illuminate our houses, but you don't see us still using the original light bulb. Well, for most of our guitars, though it's still fairly similar to Taurus's design, his influence still matters heavily on what we have now. Because here's the thing, most inventions become eventually outdated, but the modern guitar, here's the thing, we're still living in Taurus's world and his imagination of the guitar. Alright everyone, here are my final thoughts. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please, if you could, please subscribe and like the video. I'd really appreciate that. It's just a one-man team at the moment of me, so sorry that the videos take a while to come out. They just take a while to write the scripts for and compile them all together. Thank you for everyone who's been watching my videos. The past few videos I've been making have done really well, so thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. And I'm very excited as, I keep working with this channel and keep doing the best that I can. So thank you so much everyone for giving me all the love and support and all the new subscribers. I'm very excited to hit almost 100 subs. So thank you all very much. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video next week. Okay, bye.